Hello, you're playing The Waiting Game. This is the show that gets you ready for launch day by suggesting similar stuff. Coming up today, it's everyone's favourite man with cat eyes. Not that it's hard for him to be everyone's favourite, men with cat eyes are quite rare. Yes, Geralt, the long-haired slayer of all things wicked, is back for another round of sword-swinging action in The Witcher 3. Developer CD Projekt Red hasn't yet graced us with a release date, making it all the more important to know what you should check out in the hinterland between now and the currently mythical launch day. So grab your armour and get ready to engage in some surprisingly explicit sex scenes, friend. Not with me, don't worry. First up in this feral bit of frippery is the excellent Game of Thrones. Adapted from an ongoing series of books by George R.R. Martin, known as A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones is an obscenely popular TV show from HBO. It follows the machinations of several warring families for control of the continent of Westeros, along with a whole bunch of supernatural stuff like fire-breathing dragons. You know, for kicks. While the perspective of both the books and the TV show bounce around a lot, as opposed to The Witcher following one man's determined quest, Game of Thrones is nonetheless very tonally similar to The Witcher series and is thoroughly engrossing.
Let's go kill them!
Also, given that it's HBO, Game of Thrones is pretty much a lot of fighting and nookie, which is pretty bang on the money if the first two Witcher games are anything to go by. But if endlessly detailed descriptions of meals, or TV shows starring Sean Bean aren't your bag, you could always try reading something a little closer to home. See, somewhat unusually for a video game, The Witcher is actually based off a series of novels by Andrzej Sapkowski, whose name I almost certainly just mispronounced. Currently there's a series of short stories and 6 novels about Geralt of Rivia and his adventures, at least 3 of which have been faithfully translated from the original Polish. Poland is undoubtedly where these books have the greatest influence, but if you're a Witcher fan already, you stand to gain a hell of a lot from giving them a go yourself. Okay, so you may run a slight spoiler risk, but getting attached to the lore surrounding a game before you play it is the best possible way to get ready for launch, and will undoubtedly deepen your appreciation of the game world once you're free to run around in it.
He could only follow his heart.
But Johnny, I'm xenophobic, you say. I don't want to read something that was originally written in Polish. Well, that's quite a narrow view to take on world literature, but just this once I'm going to humour you. I'm not happy about it, mind. The first Lore is a series of fantasy books written by a man named Joe Abercrombie, presumably nothing to do with the preppy clothing brand. There are 6 books in all, 3 standalone novels and 1 trilogy, the first of which is called The Blade itself, which was met with great critical acclaim. With a strong cast of interesting characters, The Blade itself combines some riveting fantasy action with more than a pinch of moral ambiguity, much in the same vein as the Witcher games. At just over 500 pages, it's maybe not the shortest of reads, but if the idea of warring kingdoms and itinerant rogues gets you walking funny, then you really can't go wrong. Almost every major character in the first Lore books has a bloody past and a pressing goal, putting us very much in mind of the scarred and determined Geralt. If you're scared of spoiling plot details about The Witcher 3 by reading the books on which it's based, this is the perfect substitute. Hooray for books! Now, if you've never played The Witcher before, you should really know that it's a bit on the tricky side. You're not allowed to quaff potions willy-nilly mid-combat, for instance. This isn't Skyrim. It's not Dragon's Dogma either, but Dragon's Dogma is nonetheless a lovely little game to romp through before strapping a couple of swords to your back and running around the wilderness in The Witcher 3. Released by Capcom in 2012, it's an open-world fantasy game with a bit of hack and slash and a whole lot of dungeon. Whereas The Witcher 3 features just one player character, Dragon's Dogma has the usual assortment of fantasy archetypes to choose from, as well as a number of NPCs you can recruit to follow you around and make combat a little bit easier. All in all, Dragon's Dogma will give you an easier ride gameplay-wise than The Witcher 3, which should ease you into the greater challenge that lies ahead. Also, rather charmingly, the game centres around your character trying to track down the dragon that stole your heart. At least that would be charming if the dragon hadn't literally stolen your heart by tearing it out of your chest. Still, the course of true love never did run smooth. And for our final recommendation this week, we're staying firmly in the fantasy realm, but breaking out of the medieval into the modern day, and what is probably my most favourite found footage film of all time. Okay, so I still can't make up my mind as to whether the title is inspired or ridiculous, but Troll Hunter is a truly brilliant film about a man who, hunts trolls in secret. for the Norwegian government. Taking a lore mostly confined to children's stories, and The Witcher, it tells a truly riveting tale of some film students who follow the eponymous troll hunter as he tries to police these mythical beasts and keep them from interfering with the unsuspecting people of Norway. While found footage films have been done to death, the execution saves the film from mediocrity, making Troll Hunter a pithy romp with some truly brilliant set pieces. I don't want to say any more than that, as it's great fun discovering it for yourself. Just make sure you give it a watch. I don't even care if you hate subtitles. Alright, that's it from me for this week, but as ever, if you want to check out any of the stuff we talked about during this episode, follow the link on screen now to check out a list on Amazon. I'll be back next week, but in the meantime, feel free to make your own recommendations by leaving a comment or tweeting with the hashtag GSWaitingGame. Bye for now.